While Washington talks like it owns the map, the evidence of its military footprint is being plastered across the internet in crisp satellite imagery. Runways packed, radars positioned, air defenses layered, like a live dashboard of escalation. And the wild part is, it's not even coming from the usual Western anonymous official pipeline. A Chinese outlet reported that the PLA and a Chinese satellite firm released high-resolution images showing U.S. deployments around Iran, bases in places like Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia.
For the third time, Chinese surveillance satellites have caught the U.S. war fleet in plain view. Numerous U.S. warplanes captured by Chinese satellite camera, this time at Washington's Arab Ally Air Base in.
These high-resolution satellites have just exposed something jaw-dropping. U.S. forces are stacking advanced fighter jets right in Jordan's Muwafaq Salti Air Base.
Rising tensions across the Middle East have drawn renewed global attention as military positioning, diplomatic messaging, and satellite imagery combine to create a complex and closely watched security environment.
Spelling out, visually, what so many people in the global south have been shouting for years. The rules-based order often looks a lot like, we deploy, you comply. Now add the maritime layer. Another Chinese report tracked a Chinese research vessel operating close to a U.S. aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea using ship tracking data, right as U.S. military pressure on Iran heats up. So, you've got satellites looking down, ships listening out, and a region that's been forced to live under the constant hum of U.S. power projection, while the same capitals that lecture everyone else about stability keep flooding the Middle East with hardware. Meanwhile, Iran's not pretending it doesn't see the buildup. It's launched naval drills in the Strait of Hormuz under IRGC leadership, with diplomacy happening under the shadow of carrier groups and threats. Before we go any further, quick favor, because these matters. If this kind of truth-telling resonates with you, like the video, share it, and subscribe. Seriously, algorithms bury voices that won't bow, and they boost the same recycled talking points from the same old power centers. So, if you want fearless journalism that calls out the powerful without flinching, smash that subscribe button and ride with us. Alright, hold on because that's just the start. Let's break down what this really means, and why the Iran-North Korea-China angle has Washington and its allies so jumpy. And listen, this is wild. The loudest voices in the West keep acting shocked, that countries under threat would seek partners, weapons, countermeasures, intelligence, anything that reduces vulnerability. But when the U.S. rings Iran with bases, flies ISR, parks carrier strike groups nearby, and keeps the military option permanently on the table, what exactly are they expecting Tehran to do? Send thank you notes? Start with the U.S. posture. A recent Financial Times report describes Iran launching naval drills in the Strait of Hormuz amid rising tensions and U.S. deployments, with talks continuing while both sides posture hard. That same report frames the strait as what it is: a strategic choke point under constant pressure, and a place where any misread signal can spiral fast. And on the American side, you have reporting that the U.S. is flowing more major naval power into the broader theater, multiple carriers being discussed in connection with Iran tensions. Whatever you think of the politics, the pattern is not subtle. Muscle first, diplomacy second, and a permanent message to the region that sovereignty is conditional. Now, let's talk about China's space-enabled transparency moment. Because what really boils my blood is how Western media will call it provocative when non-Western players reveal U.S. deployments, but they'll call it accountability when the West publishes satellite imagery of everyone else. The South China Morning Post reported that a Chinese tech firm's imagery, circulated on Chinese social media, showed U.S. military buildup at regional bases. These matters because it chips away at the West's favorite advantage, operating in the shadows while controlling the narrative. When the world can literally see the layout, airframes on the tarmac, the placement of air defenses, the pace of reinforcement, suddenly the myth of limited presence collapses. And the sea story is just as telling. That SCMP report about a Chinese research vessel operating near a U.S. carrier, again, based on ship tracking, signals Beijing's interest in monitoring U.S. movement near Iran at a very sensitive time. I'm not here to romanticize any big power, but we should be honest about incentives. China's energy security and trade routes run through these waters. If Washington wants to turn the Gulf and Arabian Sea into a pressure corridor, China has every reason to keep a close watch, build a picture, and reduce surprise. Now, let's address the claim floating around about China's aircraft carrier edging close to Iranian waters. Here's the problem. I went looking for credible, specific confirmation, and what's solid in mainstream reporting right now is not a Chinese carrier off Iran, but rather China participating through naval vessels and joint drills, and China using surveillance, tracking, and satellite imagery as tools of influence. In fact, Jane's reported satellite imagery indicating China's carrier Shandong was in dry dock for maintenance at Yulin in January, which doesn't line up neatly with dramatic claims of a carrier looming near Iran this month. What is well attested is the broader China-Russia-Iran naval exercise framework in and around the Strait of Hormuz, Maritime Security Belt 2026, covered by outlets like the War Zone as a signal in the middle of U.S.-Iran friction. Now, let's pivot to North Korea, because this is where people get emotional, and where the hypocrisy gets cartoonish. When North Korea builds up its deterrent, the West says it's destabilizing. When the U.S. keeps strategic bombers, missile defenses, and nuclear umbrellas pointed at entire regions, it's reassurance. AP recently reported Kim Jong-un unveiling new launch vehicles for nuclear-capable short-range missiles, tightening the North's posture as it heads into a major political moment at home. You don't have to like Pyongyang's system to understand the logic. In a world where regime change operations have a long and ugly track record, deterrence becomes a survival language. Let's zoom out to the game-changing question. What does China stepping up for Iran actually mean in practice? Based on what's in credible reporting right now, the most visible piece is intelligence exposure, imagery, and monitoring. Then there's the broader strategic signaling. China and Russia showing up alongside Iran in maritime exercises, framing it as security cooperation, while the U.S. pushes more forces into the region. Add to that the longer-running reports that Iran has pursued partnerships with Chinese satellite firms to improve surveillance and intelligence capabilities, reported earlier by major outlets, suggesting an enduring Iranian interest in widening its ISR options beyond what the West can easily deny or degrade. People also throw around phrases like air defense supplies and radar jammers. And yes, conceptually, electronic warfare and air defense modernization are exactly what a threatened state would prioritize. But unless there's specific, attributable reporting on shipments and systems, I'm not going to manufacture details. What I will say is this. Even without a single missile being transferred, the combination of imagery, monitoring, training pathways, and strategic partnership can raise the cost of invasion talk. It complicates planning. It reduces surprise. It signals that escalation won't be a one-sided sermon. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but what happens next? That's exactly why these imagery drops and maritime monitoring matter. They're not just content. They're signals. They're warnings written in pixels and ship tracks. Escalation won't be invisible, and targeted states won't be blind. Whether you love Iran and North Korea's stance or not, one reality is hard to deny. When pressure becomes permanent policy, pushback stops being optional. It becomes inevitable. Thank you for watching.